Hello, everybody. Welcome from everyone all around the world, it seems. So thank you for joining us today on our much anticipated webinar. My name is Greg Posner. I'm the Director of Sales Engineering at Helpshift, and I also host a podcast called the Player Engage Podcast. And I'll be your host for today's deep dive into the world of online safety and well-being. Joining me are two stellar experts who eat, sleep, and breathe trust and safety. First, I want to introduce Sharon Fisher. Sharon is the head of trust and safety at Keyword Studios. Sharon's not just a pro, she's a seasoned vet with over 15 years in the game, literally from her days at Club Penguin and Disney to her current role of leading 300 plus superhero moderators. She's seen it all. Sharon, great to have you with us. Joining us later. Hello. And joining us later will be Sabine Earnst. We're thrilled to have Sabine. She's the Wellbeing Resilience Program Manager. With a decade under her belt building chat filters for TwoHat and a background in social work in the EU, Sabine now focuses on the well-being of these superheroes behind the scenes. Sabine, it will be fantastic to see you in a little bit and have your expertise here and insight with us. So let's have a warm virtual welcome for our guests. So we want to talk about what we have lined up for today. We're tackling a topic that's close to our hearts and screens: responsible moderation. This isn't your everyday content moderation chat. Oh no, we're flipping the script to focus on health and safety of everyone involved, from the moderators to the users. Sharon and Sabine will unpack 3 core facets of responsible moderation for us. And hey, don't just sit there and listen. We want to hear from you too. There'll be a Q&A session at the end of this, so get your questions ready. So before we get started, just a few quick things, because this is a new platform, I think, for a number of users, including me, so we're going to wing it here. At the bottom right of the screen, you'll see a little a little green thing that says Slido. There'll be some questions that come up throughout the, or some poll questions that come up through there. Just click that little Slido button and you'll be able to vote for your questions there. If you want to also ask a question, again, we love to hear your questions. You'll see a Q&A button as well. You could go in there, you could click that, and you could talk there. And then there's a little chat bubble. Everyone should know what the chat bubble is. If not, it's where you chat. So before we dive in, let's ask a real question here. When you hear the term responsible moderation, what comes to mind? Is it a superhero cape for moderators, or perhaps a magic wand to zap away the online trolls? And with all the Hogwarts talk this year, that would be the perfect thing to have. But drop your thoughts into chat. Let's make this interactive, and who knows, you might be the next big thing in online safety. So let's get the show on the road here. Are you ready? Sharon, are you ready to enlighten us? Let's start with first facet.
I'm ready. Let's have fun.
Let's start with that first facet, right? Responsible moderation and why we need a revolution.
I think a revolution in moderation is needed for many pieces. Number 1, ethics of it, and 2, the volume, the number of text and the volume that we have is crazy. Anything that goes also on focusing the positive. So I will unpack all of those. When we started doing moderation, one of the biggest challenges we had was people actually going against it just because it sounded like we were trying to avoid people or stop people from saying something that they thought. It's not like that. Now we understand it. But I believe that now that we have out of the box literally tools and we have learned the best ways of moderating, we need to start looking into what's the positive of it. We know that around 96% of our community is positive. So why are we continuing to focus on the 4%? That's something that we're trying to switch. Volume of it, as I was mentioning in the past, maybe having humans reviewing content was scalable. Nowadays it's not. We want to make sure that humans are equipped with all the tools to make sure that they can get to real life threat cases and time. So we are looking into moderation in very different aspects, whereas we know that banning, muting, all of those pieces have been happening for a while. But how do we take it to the next level? How do we make sure that, to your point, responsible moderation is even into the picture to make sure that we're successful?
Yeah, that's great. And I think there's a number of tools and things that you talked about, right? We see a lot of things coming in from AI, coming in and helping those moderators as well. So can we talk about a little bit of what is AI? What is HI? We see HI a lot these days. Well, what does that mean? Is it a terminology we should be aware of? And what happens when these threats come in?
Yes, so when it comes to responsible moderation, something that we are pushing as Keyword Studios is the fact that we all can work together. So AI being what we know. HI, we have coined it as human intelligence. What we believe is that we're stronger together. As I was saying before, technology now has made it to a point where we are very sure that they will be catching at least the worst of the worst. There will be many challenges on the gray areas, and all of the ponies and rainbows and kitties will be able to be posted. So when it comes to AI plus HI, what we're really trying to do is HI taking advantage of AI to get to the gray areas or cases that need real life time, literally, and that they are based on time, somebody trying to hurt themselves or hurt others, anything on the terrorism side of things. We trust AI to weed all the good, the bad, and give us those cases as soon as possible so we can act on them. What we do currently is once we find these kind of cases, we package them, we pass it to our real life threat team for escalation. They ask more questions. They keep adding to that package, and now we have a direct line to, for example, the FBI to be able to act on those, and we try to do it close to real time to make sure that the impact that we have within the communities is not just to make sure that they are foster and they are flourishing, but they are also, we are impacting literally the real world, trying to save lives. So yeah, that's a winning combo, I will call it.
I'd love to dig into this more, but maybe we can ask a poll question. Again, that's that little green Slido button at the bottom here. The first poll question is going to be, are AI-driven tools part of your moderation toolbox today? Take a look there. We'll vote. We'll come back to it. But my question to Sharon is, we hear more and more about AI coming into the workplace, helping people, but a lot of people get scared that they're going to take over our jobs. Are we going to be at risk where we might be thinking, hey, our machine's going to be replacing our moderators completely, or is that the wrong mindset to go about?
I think it is a mindset that I wouldn't subscribe. Back on the time, and I'm going to date myself here, when I started at Club Penguin, everything was very manual and there was some machine learning involved. What it looked like, it will be an allow and deny list, right? So a bunch of words that you couldn't say because they were not safe. But obviously with that, actual expressivity was hindered. So in case of Club Penguin, the penguins should be able to say, I want to throw snowballs, right? But if you were to take the last word and then just block it because it could be utilized as sexual, then that will hinder expressivity. The penguins wouldn't be able to throw snow, right? And in that case, we realized that there was a need for more of it. And that's when AI came into place. And then people went crazy and they were like, yes, AI has us. Don't worry, we don't need humans anymore. And I think we're finally at that stage where we understand that we need AI in order to make HI successful, and the other way around. There is a billion, if not more, ways of saying I'm being subversive with the F word, for example. There's a lot of context into it. This game is effing amazing. It's good, okay. Go and F your mom and blah, blah, blah. That is not okay. So we need to make sure that we are able to balance those two, to take awareness that we are just helping each other. So we're at a great stage, I think. I don't believe, actually, if anything, I'm very excited to see more AI coming into moderation, because it's just one more tool that will give us signals to make better decisions when it comes to understanding our users.
Yeah, it's a really great point. And I think it helps understand, like, it can take that low level stuff, right, and make it a little more seamless and integrated into the workflows for your users. Taking a look at the poll, we've gotten a few votes so far. It looks like 71% of you are already using AI-driven moderation tools. So that is awesome. And you are definitely ahead of the curve, I would say, based on that. Can you talk about any challenges that maybe you do face when you talk about introducing AI into this workflow? Does anything come to mind, or is there things that you should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I think the challenges is really understanding, number one, how is that AI trained, and challenge it, right? Like, we need to be able to, when we see a moderation decision, to be able to say, well, this happened because the model was trained this way and we're okay in that. So there's going to be a lot of bias if we don't pay attention on how the models, who built that model, what was their life experience in order to make decisions, and how to train that model. So We want to make sure that the AI that we're working with is, number one, flexible, but also it is something that we can continue to better, right? That's number one. Number two, I think, is that stigma of thinking that this AI is going to take my job. So hence, I do not want any of it. I don't want to integrate it. I want to keep my job. See it more of as an ally. The volume that we have in gaming right now, even, it is so huge that there won't ever be enough humans to be there in real time for our users. So that's something that we continue to see. And number three, the mental health of our moderators. We call them superheroes at Keywords. That's something that is like really important for us. We are not okay with just protecting gamers from this content and then passing the content to superheroes to review it manually. We have to make sure that we utilize AI to also protect our superheroes and have them do what they do best, which is engage, take care of the community, but not being babysitters and slapping hands all over.
You keep bringing this point up, and I think it's something that's interesting to talk about, is the well-being of the moderator, right? And before we met and before we chat, it was kind of like, all right, well, they're looking at pictures online. They're just moderating pictures online. And I know we'll get more into this with Sabine, but from a high level, you are managing 300 of these superheroes, right? Like, why is it important? Why is it important? Like, what are we protecting them from?
I think is as part of that revolution that we started the webinar with, where when it comes to understanding, even for some people that is using these platforms and these games every single day, they do not even know that there's like the superheroes behind the scenes. What the superheroes do is so important to our real life world. And just to give you an overview, if somebody is moderating one of the games that we work with, what they might be exposed to is anything on the image side of things, and that could be child pornography, child abuse, terrorism, anything on those lines. The same happens with text, never mind with voice nowadays. So we want to make sure that if these are the people that know your users the best, that know the products the best, and that they are putting their soul literally and life into making sure that everybody is protected, why wouldn't we protect them too, right? Like, why wouldn't we put the first line of defense, especially 2023, almost 2024? Technology has come such a far away from when I started back on the time. We need to start trusting that. Now, nothing is perfect. We're trying to do pre-moderation here too, which is very important. That means that none of this content actually hits your users or superheroes. We catch it before it goes there. So superheroes' mental health then becomes a really big priority for us, because if your superheroes, again, who are the biggest asset to your community, are not mentally healthy, are not taken care of, then you won't see that interaction growing so much. And you know what? At the end, it is just ethics. We have to make sure that if we care about one side of the spectrum, we care about the other too.
It's I think of this movie quote, right? Who watches the Watchmen, right? And it's kind of like, hey, moderators are watching you, but
Yes.
who's watching for them? And I think that's an awesome way to put it. And something you didn't mention that I want to kind of learn a little more about myself is kind of escalating these real life threats, right? Because everyone thinks, hey, they're just in the customer support side of gaming and stuff like that. But it's a critical aspect to online safety, the identification, escalation of real life threats to law enforcement. It's an interconnected world, and the boundary between these interactions is getting blurred and smaller and smaller. And it's kind of this scary place. I'd like to kind of understand the importance and vigilance in our digital environment, and what happens when something needs to get escalated. What's that workflow like? What's the worst that can happen?
So there's many factors that we need to look into it. Obviously, first is the well-being of the person that is expressing to wanting to damage themselves or others. We need to make sure that we get there in time. So time is of the essence here. With that, we have developed different processes to make sure that, number one, again, technology help us filter all of the rainbows so that we don't have to review them, all of the horrible stuff. Is going to come through this path, right? It's going to come there. We do not need to see the picture. We do not need to go into the widths of it. Once we identify it, we put it together for our real life threat team, who has been trained on these different topics. they will ask more questions to our supervisors and to our superheroes, and they will do what I call neon wrapping, which means please make it as bright as possible, as complete as possible, so our law enforcement can and wants to look into it. In the past, we saw a big gap between this and action, and that's nobody's fault. Technology is going too fast. Our law enforcement is not as fast as that, and the gap will be, hey, you cannot call from there. You have to be in the city to actually do this kind of report. What's an IP? We cannot do anything that's in the internet. That was one of the most frustrating things, because we knew that we had to do something right away. Anyways, we became so good at it that we actually are now directly collaborating with the FBI, and now we have a line that we can just send our real life threats. It's looked like literally in real time, and then they are able to, if applicable, action across the country, and sometimes across the globe. They will even help us. That's a huge win for the gaming industry, because that guarantees that every single of these cases is going to be looked by the right authorities. So that's one line. The second line is what happens when a superhero has gone through all of this stress, because these pieces are very stressful and very impactful. Having a system from the beginning, from the onboarding of the superhero, to help them understand that if this happens, there's what we call the recovery process of the superhero. It doesn't end there. Thank you for bringing this up to our attention. Now, how are you doing? And then we go through a process to make sure that we look into it. We help them through this, at the end, exposure to toxic content.
It's a lot of cool stuff. It sounds like you got like the red phone from the White House that can call whoever you want. Sounds like you got a direct line.
I should get one of those and
You
have
should.
it not even blog, but just like for fun.
But I also like how you check in with the superheroes afterwards, right? Making sure how they're feeling, getting a kind of sense to make sure that, hey, are you all right? Because again, it goes back to making sure that the people who are watching these people, that make sure that there's no kind of residual from there. Let's do another quick audience check-in. Do you today follow or have a process for reporting real life threats? That will be an interesting one to see if they're going through and doing that. And doing that, I want to talk a little bit more about kind of that moderator mental health. I think it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And as we progress, we are these individuals are the unsung heroes behind our communities, continuously working to ensure the safety and positivity. Today, Sabine will offer her valuable insights into the interconnectivity of moderator well-being and player safety and brand reputation. There's a few things going on here. So this segment's going to delve into the often overlooked aspect of content moderation, the psychological impact it can have on those who are tasked with maintaining online civility and security. Sabine will discuss the unique challenges moderators face, such as exposure to harmful content and the pressure of quick decision-making, and how these can affect their mental health. So Sabine, thank you for joining us today. Try to tell us a little bit about how it's working in your world.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. Yes, so you mentioned a few things. If we talk about the why, right? Why do we want to take care of our superheroes? And I loved how you Greg, summarized what Sharon said, who watches the Watchmen. And then, so really, when you think about our superheroes, they contribute to a healthy, a safe environment. And so you remove one piece of content, harmful content, from the eyes of the community and put it in front of another pair of eyes. Why wouldn't you want to take care of these people who are reviewing it and who are getting up and who are committed to protect? If you think about the community who are our most vulnerable, it's also the children who are online, spend a lot of time online. And the second, what Sharon mentioned, right, it's the mutual dependency. If as a company also you care about player safety, user engagement, brand reputation, you have to take care of the moderators. You can't take, Sharon mentioned it, one side of the equation, but not the other one. You have to make sure that you have a positive mental health, that you give them that environment where they can maintain and build resiliency. And I also want to bring in another aspect here. That's the research aspect. And little research has been done in the content moderation world. As we know, even from an historical point, like the role of a moderator hasn't been well understood, and there is still a lot of work to do. But studies suggest that the risks are actually comparable, the risks to this type of work, right? Comparable to emergency services, first responders, journalists, law enforcement. And in those industries that I just mentioned, the risks are well understood and also widely recognized. So, which leads to a robust support system for those industries. And so they have those support system, they have policies that mitigate the risks. And so we understand, and since we can draw those parallels, we we are committed, excuse me, still getting over a cold here. We are also want to take a similar approach in terms of support, so that we support our superheroes drawing those parallels. And this is why we took the initiative and also created a superhero well-being and resilience program here at Keywords to make sure that we support our superheroes. And the focus in that program is the preemptive intervention. So Sharon mentioned before also, yes, you may, as a superhero, come across harmful content, you may hit crisis, but we actually focus on the preemptive intervention there. And so we have 3 pillars that we actually focus on. The first one is the mental health one. So as I mentioned, the approach is proactive, preventative, and instead of waiting for challenges to arise, we strive to build resilience through everyday care. So I can dive into it a little bit, but we also take our superheroes by the hand, leaderships, and we do it together with them, and not just offering a lot of activities, but actually implementing those routines. The second one is education skill building, I call it. And so why? Because ongoing training also for that field or for the work that a superhero does. And if you just think of the high level of cognitive skills that a superhero brings to the day-to-day work, the things that they need to know, training boosts actually their competency and builds resilience against the highly complex and ever-changing and evolving digital landscape. So we want to build resilience in superheroes, which requires also knowledge sharing opportunities. Often they work remote, they're on their own. Sometimes they're in their office, which brings different challenges there, but they need to collaborate also as teammates. That allyship, that feeling of I'm not alone, I'm not here and doing this on my own against kind of the whole world, but I have other team members who come along. They need opportunities to share their knowledge. Even if you think of the internet language, right? Hey, have you heard of this? How has it been used in context? Frameworks about bias, cultural nuances. So to be able and to give them a space also to share the knowledge, but also to train them on that. And last but not least is the leadership support. So when I have team, how do I make sure that I really understand their challenges? How do I have conversations about mental health? That can sometimes be intimidating, right? And so we also support them. We want to understand the challenges that the team have and really provide training for empathetic and compassionate support for superheroes to enable them, focusing on creating a safe space for the superheroes so that they can also share their challenges, and making sure that there is a feedback loop. But I can talk a little bit into that. And so we also work closely with the leadership because they are the ones who work with the superheroes. So we ask, does the program actually work culturally? Because there isn't one size fits all, right? What is the project that your team is working on? Projects are different, the challenges are different there. And so to really understand that we can tailor that support program. And as I mentioned, the program is centered around resilience. And Greg, you just stop me if I'm going
You're on a
way
roll.
over
Crush it.
time here, because this is like, I can talk till tonight, being here and tell you all about it. But one additional part that I wanted to mention is where does the support actually start? And so if you look at the journey of a superhero, right, it starts, or the concept of resilience really starts at the hiring point. So hiring, recruitment, making sure that the role is well understood, that we have job description, that we hire the right people, that also people are clear, like future superheroes who come to the stage, so to say, that they know what to expect. I experienced it in the past and did the mistake myself, where we hired people and they weren't even clear. And then the first week or the first 2 weeks, they came back and said, oh, I thought my tasks are totally different, right? There is a difference between also player support, content moderation, and so to make sure that without overwhelming them, but that you are transparent. And also then we go into the onboarding, right? What does the role entail? What are the policies? What Sharon mentioned before, threat processes, what are there? But last but not least, the most important also, your armor. How are we going to equip you? Do you have the resources? What do you need? And so that is the onboarding stage. And then we go into the proactive day-to-day care, so that when crisis hits and crisis intervention, we are equipped, they can come out on the other side even stronger. And that's also a topic of, yes, growth, right? Past a trauma experience, so that you get through that stage really well supported, and that we then also provide professional support from clinically trained professionals. And so, yeah, so that is really the concept of resilience that we are looking into. And the last point that I also want to bring up is make sure that we keep learning. It's not, oh, we have worked in the industry and Sharon is well seasoned. I've worked in the industry, but I keep learning every day from our superheroes. And so it is really important to talk to the leadership who work with the superheroes. Superheroes can reach out to us directly. We know them. We want to learn what's on their mind, what the challenges are. May it be technology, may it be mental health, may it be some training material that they need, maybe some decision trees, edge cases that they need to discuss, so that we actually keep learning. And so also making sure that we see the areas where we can improve our program, expand our program. But as initial steps, I think it is very necessary to create that safe environment where resiliency is promoted, and yeah, where superheroes feel safe and supported.
That's all you got for us?
I'll pause for a moment.
No, I got. I took a few notes here. I love what you said. That was so thorough, so robust. And there's a few just notes I took of things that stood out to me, which I really loved. And one I have a question on, but we could come back to, is what you mentioned, that you do the recovery with these superheroes when it's time. And I'm curious and why is that important? But the other things that you also mentioned that I thought was really great was that you talked about a safe space and teamwork, right? I imagine there's this place, it's almost like the water cooler where you could all just kind of exhale and be like, oh, this is the stuff I had to deal with today. You mentioned the feedback loop. Love feedback loops on any part of any type of game or any support. You need feedback loop to hear what's happening, why it's happening, how it's happening. Armor, love the terminology of armor, just making sure they're prepared with the tools that they need, make sure that they're mentally prepared, they're all there. And then continuous learning, because the type of things you're moderating are going to change week by week, day by day, month by month, right? People will act differently. There'll be different challenges online. All that being said, I want to kind of roll it back to kind of really simple steps of how do you convince an organization the value of moderator well-being? Because, you know, I can imagine there's certain executives just be like, oh, they need well-being too. Like, how do you convince people of that?
So it's actually a very good question, Greg. And I'm trying to think, like, what did we do, or even from my experience, I don't think anybody, or I assume that nobody is there who says, I don't want to support superheroes. What it is the lack of understanding. And as I mentioned, not much research has been done about the impact of this role. Often, and this is not finger pointing, but sometimes, especially in a bigger company, HR, they don't really understand, oh, we have content moderators. What do they actually do? So that is something where I would start. It is not so much convincing, but it is by educating, closing the knowledge gap, by making sure everyone understands the role of a moderator and the risk that this role entails. And then you need very little, if any, convincing that they say, oh my goodness. And I had it in the past where HR would say to me, I had no idea what that entails, what we need to do, but let's sit together now. Let's work on a standardized support system. It is often not knowing enough or not having a good and clear understanding of the role and the risks of this type of work.
So always educating. Sharon, you have some thoughts around this?
Yeah, I was gonna say on this piece, thankfully, what we see now is that I think this is a strong word, but I think that's where we were for a lot of years. Like this hypocrisy of let's take care of our gaming community and forget about the people that takes care about the gaming community. I think that has been reduced like a lot through the last few years. So now the gaming industry, and we're pushing towards that, of like, okay, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. We know this is happening. You know what the process is. What do we need to do today to change that? And that's where that revolution starts. And to your point, how do we convince them? I think there's not a lot of convincing to be done, to be honest. Everybody has known this has happened for many years. So all that we're doing is bringing it up to light. And I'm not going to lie, there's going to be clients that are going to be like, what's the ROI? And why do I have to pay a little bit more for like the moderator's well-being? There, I will say it's probably 4% of our clients that actually go that path. The rest of our clients are totally invested, involved, and up for it. So I just wanted to highlight that thankfully the gaming industry is looking more into it. And also new regulations are helping us to make sure that this is also upfront for our gaming companies.
That's great. Well said. I think it is top of mind for a lot of companies. And I think things people realize is, and this is a different topic, is that toxicity can kill a gaming community. And if you have a great community online and the game's going really strong and it all of a sudden becomes really toxic, is a great way to ruin your game really quickly and ruin your ROI that you have there. So maybe sometimes you just got to bite your tongue and not worry about the ROI and worry about the safety of your team and your colleagues. This kind of goes along with it, is if you could only provide one activity or resource for your moderators to support their well-being, what would it be?
Great question. Do I answer, or is this for the audience?
You can answer first because it was directed to you, but I'd love to also hear what Sabine has to say.
Okay.
So for me,
go
ahead. Sorry, no, I think it was directed at Sharon, right? Greg, is that what you said?
Yes, but I'm directing it to both of you, but Sharon, go first.
If I could only provide one resource, will be technology prior. That's it. That's the first line of defense that I want to make sure that every single superhero, and not just keywords, everywhere around the globe, they are protected first of seeing horrible content. That's why the AI plus HI marriage, literally, amalgamation needs to happen, because it will really impact not only the online world, but real life, also, not only for our superheroes, but also for the users and humans in the world.
From my angle, it would be provide 24/7 unlimited access to professional help. And that is also something I would like to make clear. We are not clinically trained. So we provide a safe environment, but we are not there to fix anything. And that is also important, that we learn and that we communicate these boundaries, right? And so when you, as a company, provide the service of content moderation, make sure that you offer an unlimited 24/7 access to professional help, clinically trained therapists, so that they are accessible around the clock.
I think that's a great point, right? Everyone needs a true expert in their life, and while we can be an ear and here, you really need someone that can know what to look for when you're talking to someone. I think that's a great point of having someone 24/7 available to you if you need to talk to someone. There's another two questions that I think play really well together. The first one is going to be, when should you start thinking about moderation and trust and safety when building a game? Sharon, you want to start that one?
Yesterday. So what we have seen is, again, about the revolution, but also responsible moderation. Responsible moderation really, really starts from when you are thinking about the features that you're going to be adding to your game, right? So I was fortunate to be able to speak DevCon this year. And it was like an aha moment when I was talking to developers, because for years, developers have really been running away from community, right? Like, I don't want to create a filter. I don't want to have to update a filter. I don't want to do it in French and German and all of that. I'm here because I love to build games. It was not until that moment that I actually, and we mutually realized that their sense of community is very different, obviously, to what we see. So they are thinking, yes, I just need to figure out how to block the F word or anything like that. Once you give them the importance also that they have when it comes to, have you actually think about developing these features with trust and safety in mind? And what I mean by this is a simple example. That's a really cool feature. I love that you want to your users to upload content and their art, for example. Have you ever thought that that tool can be utilized to upload child pornography? And their minds just went like this. Of course, they have not thought about it, and they didn't have to until now. But if you were to develop those features with that in mind, then probably the number of cases that we are escalating to authorities will be reduced, because that's responsible moderation. So to your original question, when do you start? You start from there, from the ideation. I also believe there's a stigma there of like, don't tell trust and safety because they're going to come and take all our creativity and they are not fun. It has nothing to do with that. It's rather, again, asking those questions so they can utilize their expertise to make sure that features come out safely. It is also giving a heads up to the community side of things. It's like, okay, there's going to be this feature. How are we going to protect our users? How are we going to protect ourselves? Your point earlier, Greg, was right on point. In the past, community was an afterthought. You will build your game, you will put bells and whistles into it. If community came together after the release and then they like it, that was amazing and awesome. Nowadays, we understand that community is the heart of it all. So you want to make sure that community has all of the different standards, all of the different protection from the get-go, rather than we finish everything, we launch it, oh my gosh, the F word is everywhere and anywhere, and there's racism and stuff. Let's break everything. Let's integrate this. Like, it's just a disservice to everyone. So starting from the ideation, and just literally it's 1 hour meeting with either somebody from trust and safety or somebody from your community management within your team, is gonna save you literally hours, the pain, and lots of money just by having that conversation at the beginning.
This was a great session. I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot in the importance of both moderators, superheroes, and what our companies can be doing to make sure that everyone is safe in the workplace. Before we go and we say our goodbyes, I'd like to give each of you a chance to say some final words. So Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today. Any final words?
Yes, I think the revolution is here. The gaming industry is ready for it. Let's all join forces, as I've said it many, many times. Take the superhero concept, implement it in your own company. Talk to us if you need any help on how we did it. But it is time for the gaming industry to just take moderation and moderators to the next level.
Yeah, thank you. And Sabine, to you as well, thank you for joining us. It was great to hear what your companies can be doing to make sure that the superheroes are safe. Is there anything you'd like to say before we leave for the day?
Thank you, Greg, for having us. And this webinar, or these webinars, are always a great opportunity to get the word out. And as Sharon mentioned, let's tackle this together. Let's work together. Let's reach out, support each other. We are in this together, and so let's support our superheroes.
Thank you. Yeah, agreed. Can't say any better myself. So, final notes just for everyone to know. Feel free to join the Keywords Player Engagement team, Sharon specifically, at the booth at Pocket Gamers London on January 22nd and 23rd. Visit us at booth G07 to learn more about trust and safety and find some exclusive swags. Those cool laced records at the bottom. You go check them out. And remember, moderation isn't just about rules. It's about building a community that's supportive and safe. So let's work together towards this goal. I hope everyone has a great holiday and stay safe and connected. Have a great day.
Closing time. Open all the doors and let you out into the world. Closing time. Turn all of the lights on over every boy and every girl. Closing time. One last call for alcohol, so finish your whiskey or beer. Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I know who I want to take me home. I know who I want to take me home. I know who I want to take me home. Take me home. Places you will be from. Closing time. This room won't be open till your brothers or your sisters come. So gather up your jackets, move it to the exits. I hope you have found a friend. Closing time. From some other beginning's end. Yeah, I know who I want to take me home. I know who I want to take me home. I know who I want to take me home. Take me home. from other beginnings and